Yeah, we really love dogs here. Hello YouTube! As you can probably tell, I am not coming to you today from my German dormitory. Today I am coming to you from sunny California, and since I am already missing my Germany trip, I thought that we would talk about one of the most famous German composers of music, Ludwig van Beethoven's nephew. Beethoven always had the reputation for being a crotchety, cranky guy, and there are several good reasons for this. 1. He had some very serious money issues. 2. He was never able to marry any of the women he fell in love with due to social restrictions. They were always of a higher class than him. 3. He began to lose his hearing at the age of 26 and lost it completely by the age of 42. When his brother died, Ludwig van Beethoven took it upon himself to raise his 9-year-old nephew, Karl. Aw, how sweet! You might say, but actually his mom was still very much alive and she really wanted to raise her own son, as you can imagine. Beethoven decided that his sister-in-law was unfit to raise Karl because of her immoral ways. She had a son out of wedlock before she married his brother, and so he decided to sue for sole custody of Karl. Against the advice of almost everyone who knew him, he forcibly removed the 10-year-old Karl from his mother's house 4 years before the courts even actually gave him permission to be the sole custodian. Beethoven saw Karl as his heir, and he hoped that he would also inherit all of his musical genius. He spared no expense for Karl's musical education, but unfortunately, Karl really didn't have any musical gift, and he had even less desire to learn music. Womp womp. In fact, Karl had no desire to live with Uncle Beethoven whatsoever. He was so desperate to get back to his mom that he would run away from his fancy private schools all the time in search of her. Beethoven obviously took this as a personal affront and an insult to his parenting, and he would do whatever it took to get Karl away from his mother again, whether it was change the school that he went to so it would be harder for him to find where his mother lived, or even one time he had the police forcibly remove Karl from his mother's presence. Things began to look up for Karl when he began to attend university. Karl studied philology, but within 2 years he figured out that his true calling was to serve in the military. However, when he presented this idea to Uncle Ludwig, Beethoven threw a huge fit and refused to give permission for Karl to go into the army. As a result, Karl became very emotionally confused and disturbed enough to make 2 suicide attempts within 4 months of each other, the last of which involved a gunshot to the head, which thankfully only grazed his forehead. When he was found injured, he asked to be taken back to his mother's house instead of to Beethoven's, which, as I'm sure you guess, didn't make Ludwig very happy. In fact, this hurt Beethoven's feelings so much that most scholars think that this is what really drove Beethoven's health to decline. Beethoven began to get very, very sick, and Karl knew that his uncle was dying, but he used this as an opportunity to enroll himself into the army. On January 2nd, 1827, Karl left his uncle's house and said goodbye to Beethoven. Their farewell was very short and unemotional, and it was actually the last time he saw his uncle because Beethoven died not too many months after that. The next time he saw his uncle was at his funeral 3 days after he died. Luckily for Karl, after Beethoven died, he had a much easier time of it. After serving in the military for 5 years, he got married to a lovely young woman named Caroline, and they had 5 children together. There's evidence that he still may have carried a little bit of love for his deceased uncle, though, because he named his only son Ludwig. Oh, it's cute, right? So even if Uncle Beethoven was kind of a jerk, Karl still turned out alright in the end. You know, after being hospitalized for suicide attempts and, you know, forcibly separated from his mother. It's all okay in the end, right? Okay, well that's it for this video. If you learned something new or if you enjoyed watching it, please feel free to like and subscribe below. Again, any requests can be left in the comments or sent to me in a message via the Facebook page. Until next week, adios! Musicology.